David, I want to start with you and with this new reporting from NBC News. President Biden frustrated over what he perceives as sloppiness from his aides during the 2017 transition.
That's true. There was some sloppiness here, but, you know, it's our job to be hard on the president. So on November 2nd, the first documents are found in President Biden's office. President Biden himself at that point should have said, how did these get here? What's going on? I want like a search of all my offices. I want to make sure that there aren't additional documents. And that's what's so puzzling about this. It all starts in November, and then there's no real effort to look for additional documents until December. And it is an example of sloppiness. I agree, as you laid out there, it's far more serious. The number of documents, the efforts to obstruct
the Trump case. The
Trump case is much more, flagrant and outrageous than the Biden case. But these are unforced political errors by the Biden administration, and it's helping Republicans.
We'll come back to the politics of this and the way in which Republicans are actively making sure that it helps them. But, Jill, I want to ask you, when it comes to the investigation, talk about the way in which the DOJ's investigation would involve talking to those aides who packed away the then vice president's documents.
That would be one of the steps the Department of Justice would take, or the special counsel would take. There are so many aspects to this. One is, how did they get out of the White House? And that's the same question for both Presidents Trump and Biden. What happens after that is a more interesting question. Biden discovers these because he's now packing up and closing down an office, and his staff is cleaning it up. At that point, the archives doesn't even know that there are any missing documents. If he were a lesser person, he might have just sat on them and never gone back to the archives with them. It certainly would have saved him a lot of trouble, but he's too honest for that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who was being asked to return documents that the archives knew had been wrongly removed, knew were missing, and he hid them. He refused to turn them over. He fought it in court. He filed a false affidavit. He had his lawyers lie about it. So there's a very big difference between an accidental removal, and even assuming that Trump's was accidental, it was the keeping of them and the refusal to return them that makes it very different.
Jill, just to underscore the point you just made, I want you to take a listen to what Congressman Adam Schiff said this morning on ABC about the difference between these two cases.
I think it's important to point out that the Biden approach was very different in the sense that it looks, as far as we can tell, that it was inadvertent that these documents were in these locations. When they were discovered, they were immediately provided to the archives or to the Justice Department. There was no effort to hold on to them, no effort to conceal them, no effort to obstruct the Justice Department's investigation. All of that is a very sharp contrast to Donald Trump's handling of the situation.
Jill, how do you probe this question of intent?
Well, that's one of the ways, is you look at how they responded when they got it. I go back to the Watergate era, where there was all this question about why didn't Nixon just burn the tapes? And of course, if he had done it before we subpoenaed them, it might not have been a crime to do it. And maybe it wouldn't have even had political consequences. Luckily, he didn't. In this case, there was no compulsion. There was no one asking him for these, but he knew that they shouldn't have been in his possession, and he returned them. He did all the right things. That shows intent going back to, why did he have them? Why were they there? And then you just look at who packed up the documents. The department, the special counsel will be talking to the people who packed up these things. We have to look at, did anybody look at these in the years? And we're talking years in this case, not just months, but years. This is from when he was vice president. And did he ever have occasion to open those boxes? I bet he's just like I am, and like many other people. When companies coming, I take things off my desk, I put them in a box, and then I forget they're there. And 6 months later, I realize if I didn't need them in the 6 months, I might as well just throw them away. And I never look at them.